Choose the correct equation. A. New Repair GZ. B. New Repair Street. C. New Repair. D. New PR Street. The correct answer is New Repair Street. In a forward feed multiple effect evaporator unit, A. Viscosity of liquid is highest in first effect. B. Transfer from effect to effect is done by pumps. C. No pump is required to withdraw the product from the last effect. D. None of these. The correct answer is none of these. In case of heat flow by conduction for a cylindrical body with an internal heat source, the nature of temperature distribution is A. Linear. B. Hyperbolic. C. Parabolic. D. None of these. The correct answer is parabolic. For heat flow through very thick-walled cylinder, use mean radius. A. Arithmetic. B. Logarithmic. C. Geometric. D. Either A or C. The correct answer is logarithmic. Indirect contact heat exchangers are preferred over direct contact heat exchangers because A. Heat transfer coefficient are high. B. There is no risk of contamination. C. There is no mist formation. D. Cost of equipment is lower. The correct answer is there is no risk of contamination. Water is normally used as a coolant in the heat exchange equipments mainly because of its A. Abundance, high heat capacity. B. Low density. C. Low viscosity. D. High fluidity. The correct answer is abundance, high heat capacity. The rate of emission of radiation by a body does not depend upon the A. Wavelength of radiation. B. Surface temperature of the body. C. Nature of the surface. D. Shape and porosity of the body. The correct answer is shape and porosity of the body. Which of the following has maximum thermal conductivity at the same temperature? A. Steel. B. Petrol. C. Air. D. All have the same conductivity. The correct answer is steel. Maximum heat transfer rate is obtained in flow. A. Laminar. B. Turbulent. C. Creeping. D. Transition region. The correct answer is turbulent. In case of boiling, the liquid temperature is below the saturation temperature and the boiling takes place in the vicinity of the heated surface. A. Nucleate. B. Local. C. Pool. D. Saturated. The correct answer is local. The ratio of velocity head to tube side return loss in case of a multipass shell and tube heat exchanger is A. 2. B. 1:2. C. 4. D. 1:4. The correct answer is 1:4. Terminal point temperature differences between fluids in case of a heat exchanger is termed as A. Approach. B. Log mean temperature difference. C. Arithmetic mean temperature difference. D. Geometric mean temperature difference. The correct answer is approach. LMTD can't be used as such without a correction factor for the A. Multipass heat exchanger. B. Baffled heat exchanger. C. Condensation of mixed vapor in a condenser. D. All A, B, and C. The correct answer is all A, B, and C. hr. Cold viscous feed backward feed gives then forward feed. A. A higher capacity. B. A lower capacity. C. Lower economy. D. None of these. The correct answer is a higher capacity. Walls of a cubicle oven are of thickness L and they are made of material of thermal conductivity K. The temperature inside the oven is 100 C and the inside heat transfer coefficient is 3 kL. If the wall temperature on the outside is held at 25 C, what is the inside wall temperature in degrees centigrade? A. 35.5. B. 43.75. C. 81.25. D 48.25. The correct answer is 81.25. Overall heat transfer coefficient of a particular tube is U1. If the same tube with some dirt deposited on either side has coefficient U2, then A U1 U2, B U2 U1, C U1 U2, D U1 dirt factor U2. The correct answer is U1 U2. In SI units, thermal conductivity is expressed in A watt mK, B watt m2 K, C watt m2 K, D watt m4 K. The correct answer is watt mK. Boiling point of a solution according to Duhrings rule is a linear function of the of water. A boiling point at the same pressure, B viscosity, C density, D thermal conductivity. The correct answer is boiling point at the same pressure. The overall resistance for heat transfer through a series of flat resistance is the of the resistances. A average, B geometric mean, C product, D sum. The correct answer is sum. At what value of Prandtl number conduction is negligible in the turbulent core of a fluid flowing through a heated pipe? A 0.5, B 0.5, C 0.6, D 0.1. The correct answer is 0.6. A sphere of radius r1 is enclosed in a sphere of radius r2. The view or shape factor for radiative heat transfer of the outer sphere with respect to the inner sphere is A0, B r2 r1 r2, C1, D r1 r2 2. The correct answer is R2 r1 r2. For a laminar flow of fluid in a circular tube, H1 is the convective heat transfer coefficient at velocity v1. If the velocity is reduced by half and assuming the fluid properties are constant, the new convective heat transfer coefficient is A 1.26 H1, B 0.794 H1, C 0.574 H1, D 1.741 H1. The correct answer is 0.794 H1. The main purpose of providing fins on heat transfer surface is to increase the A temperature gradient, B mechanical strength of the equipment, C heat transfer area, D heat transfer coefficient. The correct answer is heat transfer area. A BTU hr.ft. 2 floor is equal to A 1 kilocalorie hr, M2C, B 4.88 kilocalories hr, M2C, C 1 kilocalorie hr, M2, K, D none of these. The correct answer is 4.88 kilocalories hr, M2C. Which of the following has the lowest Prandtl number? A molten sodium, a coolant used in fast breeder reactor, B water, C transformer oil, D dilute H2SO4. The correct answer is molten sodium, a coolant used in fast breeder reactor. In SI units, fouling factor is expressed in A M2KW, B WM2K, C M2K, D MKW. The correct answer is M2KW. An ejector is used to A increase pressure, B increase temperature, C remove condensate, D none of these. The correct answer is none of these. Extremely large or small volumes of fluids are generally best routed through the shell side of a shell and tube heat exchanger because of the A less corrosion problems, B flexibility possible in the baffle arrangement, C low pressure drop, D high heat transfer coefficient. The correct answer is flexibility possible in the baffle arrangement. All analogy equations connecting friction factor and heat transfer coefficient apply only to A. Wall or skin friction, B. Form friction, C. Both A and B, D. Turbulent flow. The correct answer is wall or skin friction. Electromagnetic spectrum range, which is important for radiation, varies from microns, A. 1 to 100, B. 0.5 to 50, C. 10 to 100, D. 100 to 1000. The correct answer is 0.5 to 50. The characteristic dimensionless groups for heat transferred to a fluid flowing through a pipe in laminar flow are A. Read.gz, B. Nu PR, C. Nu PRE, D. Nu GZ. The correct answer is Nu GZ. Heat transfer rate described by Fourier's law will decrease if the increases A. Thermal conductivity, B. Thickness, C. Temperature difference, D. Heat transfer area. The correct answer is thickness. A black body does not radiation, A. Absorb or emit, B. Refract, C. Reflect, D. Both of C. The correct answer is both of C. The capacity of double effect evaporator is less than half of the capacity of two single effects, each of which is operating over same terminal temperature difference when the A. solution has an elevation of boiling point, B. evaporators operate under vacuum, C. evaporators operate at atmospheric pressure, D. none of these. The correct answer is solution has an elevation of boiling point. Peclet number PE is given by A. PE Re, PR, B. PE Re PR, C. PE PRRE, D. PE Nu, Re. The correct answer is PE Re, PR. Nusselt number is the ratio of the A. temperature gradient of the wall to that across the entire pipe, B. temperature difference to the temperature gradient at the wall, C. heat flux at the wall to that across the entire pipe, D. none of these. The correct answer is heat flux at the wall to that across the entire pipe. Prandtl number is the ratio of A. momentum diffusivity to mass diffusivity, B. momentum diffusivity to thermal diffusivity, C. thermal diffusivity to mass diffusivity, D. thermal diffusivity to momentum diffusivity. The correct answer is momentum diffusivity to thermal diffusivity. Which of the following parameters is increased by use of finned tube in a multipass shell and tube heat exchanger? A. tube side pressure drop and the heat transfer rate, B. convective heat transfer coefficient, C. effective tube surface area for convective heat transfer, D. all A, B and C. The correct answer is all A, B and C. Forced circulation evaporators are useful for the concentration of viscous salting and scale-forming liquors. Which of the following is a forced circulation evaporator? A. long vertical evaporator, B. horizontal tube evaporator, C. agitated film evaporator, D. cylindrical vertical tube evaporator. The correct answer is agitated film evaporator. The ratio of the total emissive power to the absorptivity for all bodies is same at their ther-mal equilibrium. This is law A. Kirchhoff's, B. Planck's, C. Wien's displacement, D. Stefan Boltzmann. The correct answer is Kirchhoff's. View factor is important in heat transfer by A. steady state conduction, B. natural convection, C. forced convection, D. radiation. The correct answer is radiation. The advantage of using a 1-2 shell and tube heat exchanger over a 1-1 shell and tube heat exchanger is A. lower tube side pressure drop, B. lower shell side pressure drop, C. Higher tube side heat transfer coefficient. D. Higher shell side heat transfer coefficient. The correct answer is higher tube side heat transfer coefficient. For a multipass shell and tube heat exchanger, the LMTD correction factor is always A1, B1, C1, D between 1-2. The correct answer is 1. If heat transfer rate varies with the time, it is termed as A. Forced convection, B. Steady state conduction, C. Monochromatic radiation, D. None of these. The correct answer is none of these. Pick out the wrong statement. A. Fluid movement under the influence of buoyant forces resulting from change in density takes place in case of natural convection. B. The ratio N-nu-N-re. NPR is called the Stanton number. C. The Peclet number is a measure of the ratio of energy transport by convection to that by conduction. D. The Kolbum-JH factor for heat transfer is given by N-cent NPR. The correct answer is the Kolbum-JH factor for heat transfer is given by N-cent NPR. Tube expansion allowances exist in heat exchanger. A. Multipass fixed tube sheet. B. U-tube. C. Single pass fixed tube sheet. D. None of these. The correct answer is U-tube. Pick out the wrong statement. A. In drying a solid containing moisture above the critical moisture content, the number of degrees of freedom is 2. B. Sherwood number in mass transfer corresponds to Nusselt number in heat transfer, and Schmidt number to Prandtl number. C. Forced convection is relatively more effective in increasing the rate of mass transfer if Schmidt number is larger. D. Hot gases at moderate pressure are usually in the shell side of shell and tube heat exchangers. At higher pressure, however, it is customary to put gas in the tube side. The correct answer is forced convection is relatively more effective in increasing the rate of mass transfer if Schmidt number is larger. Agitated film evaporator is suitable for concentrating liquids. A. Foaming. B. Viscous. C. Very thin. D. Corrosive. The correct answer is viscous. The thickness of condensate layer in filmwise condensation depends on the A. Condensation rate, B. Surface configuration, C. Liquid flow rate from the surface, D. All A, B, and C. The correct answer is all A, B, and C. If the thermal conductivity of a wall material is independent of temperature, the steady-state temperature distribution in the very large thin plane wall having steady uniform surface temperature follows law. A. Parabolic, B. Hyperbolic, C. Linear, D. Logarithmic. The correct answer is parabolic.